Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, ma'am.
This is Ramya from SRM.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining this session. We look forward for your interactive lecture on text and culture, understanding society through literary narratives with reference to NEP 2020. Department of Language, Culture and Society, College of Engineering and Technology, SRM, Institute of Science and Technology, Kattankulattur, in collaboration with Department of Linguistics, Tetso College, Dimapur, Nagaland, has organized the 6-day online faculty development program on narratives of change, reimagining English language and literature as a mirror of cultural and intellectual transformation, NEP 2020 and Viksit Bharat 2047. And we have with us Dr. Yansubaini, who will introduce the speaker of the day. Ms. Yansubaini.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, participants and our respected speaker. It is my privilege to introduce our speaker for this session, Dr. Hawebom Loyomba. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right.
Yes.
Yeah, so Dr. Hawebom Loyomba is an assistant professor in the Department of English at Tetso College, Nagaland, with nearly 6 years of experience in teaching. He holds a PhD degree in English from Gamua University, Nainital, where he specializes in narrative strategies in novels of Mulkraj Anand. So he has also qualified for the NET UGC and Northeast set in English. So his research areas include post-colonial studies and sociocultural criticism. Dr. Loyombam has also published widely in reputed journals, international as well as national edited volumes, as well as in newspapers. He has also edited 2 books of his literary landscape of society, across disciplinary discourse and narratives of society, across disciplinary literary inquiry. So he is also a regular participant in academic discourse, and he has presented papers at numerous conferences, seminars, workshops, etc. So as a resource person, he has also delivered lectures on literary theory, English, drama, and poetry at state level UGC NET workshops, and also have served in the ICPR sponsored national seminar on Bhakti literature. So he has contributed academically as an external examiner and a question paper setter for multiple institutions as well. So we are honored to have you here today. The platform is yours.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am, for these beautiful introductions, and very good afternoons to you, and very good afternoon to all the faculty members and paper presenters. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes, and today for this session, I'll be speaking on literature, culture.
Okay, sir, sorry for the interruption, but I have your PPT with me, so should I share the PPT now or?
Yes, please share. We can begin the presentations. Please share the PPT. So I'll be speaking on literature, culture, and how literature highlight the culture, and I will briefly highlight on NEP 2020 in the context of literature. So can you please share the slides?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Next slide, please.
Visible?
Yes, it is visible. It is visible.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. And so I will be begin with literature. And literature is, as we know, is one of the most powerful form of human expressions. And it is not limited only to written books or printed words. Literature dwells in both spoken and dramatic forms, and stories told by elders, folk tales shared around a fire, and traditional, theater, namely the Manipuri Sumanglila, all of these are also literature because they use language creatively to express ideas and emotions. So as long as words are used in artistic, meaningful, or imaginative ways, whether written, spoken, or performed, they become a part of literature. One of the very famous writer, Virginia Woolf, once said that, her very famous quote, books are the mirror of the soul. So this means that, literature reflects our deepest thoughts, feelings, and the world around us. But today, we understand that, not only books, but even performances, song with stories, and oral traditions can hold the soul of community. So conceptually, literature is, writing or expressions that has artistic value. It can be real or fantasy. It can be of serious or humorous. It can be all anew, and so on. So literature includes many forms. Like we have different genres in literatures, like novels are there, short stories are there, poems, plays, essays, and several life writings, such as like memoir, biographies, autobiographies are there, journals, diaries, and so on. So each form, unique thing is that uses language differently. But the purpose is the same for all the genres. That is, to communicate meaning in a way that touches the reader emotionally and intellectually. And the next point here is that, literature plays an important role in preserving human history. Now, before modern technology, stories, traditions and beliefs, were passed from one generation to another through spoken or written literatures, right? And, ancient epic like we have Ramayana, Mahabharata, Odyssey, Beowulf are there. It helps communities remembers their values, their heroes, and cultural identity. So this shows that, literature is also a form of memory. It helps us understand the past and give us a sense of connections with our ancestors. Literature is also a way of exploring human emotions. When we say about human emotion, it talks about, we have various human emotions are there, like love, sorrows, fear, joy, anger, hopes, and desire for freedoms. So in literature, through characters and stories, we see the struggles and dreams of people, right, from different times and different cultures. Like for instance, like, Shakespeare plays explores universal human themes, such as like jealousy, ambitions, betrayal. In a jealousy, we have seen, ambitions, betrayal, and ambitions in so many plays we have seen in ambition, like Marlowe, Dr. Foster's love in the Romeo and Juliet's, right? So even though they were written hundreds of years ago, they still speak to us today, because human emotions do not change. Shakespeare's belongs to 16th century, Marlowe's before that, but still today we are reading the literatures, the works, because human emotions do not change with times. Another key part of literature is imaginations. Literature allows us to enter the world that do not exist in real life. We have fantasy novels are there, science fictions, magical realisms, all these show us new possibilities and help us think beyond the limit of real world. Imaginations help reader develop creativity and encourages them to think differently. Many great writers believe that, imagination is necessary for personal growth. Now, through literatures, we can experience things we have never seen. We've never seen and learned. And we learn new lessons without suffering real life consequences. Right? And that's the beauty of the literature. Literature also helps us understand society and culture. Literature reflects the way, people lived, what they believed in, and what problem they faced. So every piece of literature is shaped by the society in which it is written. Like we have R.K. Narayan, Malgudi Days, shows the everyday life, hopes and struggles of ordinary Indian people, Indians, common laymen. And we have Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn's, now which shows the realities of racism and life along the Mississippi rivers, in America. So these works are not just stories; they are windows into social conditions, cultural practices, and historical events. Right. So in a way, literature often becomes a records of social changes and cultural transformations. And one of the important points, function of literature is that it encourages critical thinking. Right. When we read literature, we do not just accept the story. Right. When we do not just accept the story, we question it. We try to interpret it, and look for deeper meaning. Right. And poetry has, layers and layers of meaning. Every poetry, contains. So literature teaches us to look beneath the surface and understand different perspective. So it developed our ability to analyze it, compare the works, and think differently and independently. And literature also promotes empathy. Right. So when we read about characters who suffer and struggles or celebrate life, and there's so many dramas, novels, when we read about those characters, we begin to feel connected to them. We understand their pain, their dreams, and their choices they make in the story. We feel connected. So these help us become more understanding. We become more compassionate, toward real people in the world, in real life. So this is, one of the, through literature, we learn to respect diversity and appreciate different cultures. Another, important aspect is that literature is timeless, right? So book written hundreds or even thousands of years ago can still feel relevant today. We have like Homer Iliad, Chaucer Canterbury Tales, it's still in our university syllabus, which were written many, many centuries ago. And a story about courage, justice, love, freedom remains powerful because these are universal values. Literature continues to speak to each generation because human life is full of similar joys and challenges across time, across places. So in today's world, literature also continues to evolve. It's now include digital writings, and there are blogs, and there are graphic novels, and new forms. The new forms created with the help of technology. But the heart of literature remains the same. It is about expressing ideas in meaningful ways and connecting human experiences across time. So literature is the art of using words beautifully, thoughtfully, and it helps us understand life, explore our emotions, appreciate culture, and think critically. So literature always gives us comfort, teaches us lessons, and opens our minds. Whether we read an epic, an ancient epic, or a modern novel, a postmodern novel, literature always helps us grow as an individual. and as a society. Literacy is not just a school subject or a collection of books, right? It is living, breathing, reflection of humanity and society. It is a mirror that shows who we are and who we were and who we can become in future. So as long as human continues to feel, imagine, think, and communicate, literature will remain a powerful, medium and force that shapes our, human society, our world. Can you please change the slide? Can you please move on to the next slide? Yes, culture. Culture is the way of life of a group of people. Yes. And when we say culture, it includes their beliefs, customs, values, tradition, language and art, food, dress, and social behavior, and many other things. Right? So cultures shapes how people think, how they act, and how they celebrate, and how they interact with one another. Right. It is something that we learn from our birth and carry it throughout our lives. So there's one famous anthropologist, that Edward B. Taylor, who is also known as the father of cultural anthropology, and said that culture is that text whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, moral, law, customs, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of society. So this quote given by Edwards, it means it captures the idea that cultures influences every part of human life. Culture is not something we are born with. It is something not we learn from our family, community, or society. For example, like children learn how to greet others, right? And how to behave in public, what is considered right and wrong, and from our family members and society. They learn the language spoken at home, the stories, the elders' tales, and the rules that guide everyday behaviors. So all these things become a part of their cultural identity. Culture also gives people a sense of belonging, right? When people share the same tradition, when we share the same tradition, speak the same and speak the same language, or celebrate the same festivals, we feel connected to one another, right? This shared identity creates unity, build strong communities. So when we go to abroad also, and or when we go to abroad or any other states, if we meet someone from our own community, or from our own state, we instantly feel connected with them because of our similar culture, language, and maybe food habits, and so on. So culture helps people understand where they come from and give them pride in their heritage. Another important aspect of culture is that it's constantly changing. Culture is not fixed or frozen. It grows and evolves over time as people interact with others, right? As new ideas appears, as society is developed. For example, like modern technology, there's global communication, and education had changed many cultural practices. People, adopt new habits while still holding on to traditional values. Like we have seen in after the pandemics, online classes, webinar, workshops, all this thing has become very normal now. It has become a part of our life, our culture. So this ability to change makes culture dynamic and flexible. A culture is also expressed through art and creativity. So like when we say art and creativity, we have music, dance, literature, theater, painting, craft, all reflect the cultural values of a community. Through these forms, people express their emotions. We are expressing our emotions. beliefs, and experiences. We have folk songs, who often tell stories of love, war, struggles, and celebrations. So traditional dances reflect the history and collective memories of the people. So similarly, literatures, captures cultural ideas, social issues, and moral lessons, allowing future generations to, understand their. Food is also, another important part of culture. Food is very important. What people eat, how they cook, and how they share meals, it tells us a lot about our way of life. And we have festivals, often include special dishes, special recipes, special cuisine that have passed down from ancestors. During Diwali, for Hindu, we normally cook vegetarian food. We prepare sweets. And likewise, every community has their own recipes and dishes for specific festivals. So these food traditions, help preserve cultural identity. And a culture also guides social behavior. Social behavior. So it teaches people, culture, how to treat others, how to, show respect, how to form relationships, and how to fulfill responsibilities within a family, within a society. So cultural rules help maintain harmony and order. For example, different cultures have a different ways of greetings. Some bow down, we shake hands, and some join their hands. We do namaste, and some touches the feet of elders. So these actions, see, the different actions reflect respect and politeness, but according to each culture's cultural values. Right. And religions and belief systems are also part of culture. They provide people with moral guidance and explain the meaning of life and help them cope with difficulties. And the rituals we have, ceremonies and festivals, often come from religious traditions and are deeply tied to cultural identity. A key feature of cultures is diversity. Yes, every community, tribes, nations has its own unique and cultural practices, right? See, this diversity enriches the world and allow people to learn from one another. When cultures meet, they exchange ideas. We exchange shared knowledge and influence to each other. So these cultural interactions, it help societies grow and become more understanding. It makes the society more inclusive. So, in a very simple words, culture is everything that shapes human life and identity. It tells us how we are, how we think, how we behave, and how we connect with others. Culture is like a bridge that links the past, present, and future. So without culture, society would lose its meaning, no meaning at all. Purpose, no purpose. And there's no unity for sure. So culture is the collective heartbeat of the community, And it continues to guide and inspire people across generations. Right. Can you please change the slide? Next slide, please. Yeah, how literature reflect culture. Literature is one of the is the strongest mirror of culture. So literature will reflect the belief systems, our values, our customs, and social practices of the society in which it is created. Writers do not write in isolations. They never write in isolation. They are influenced by the world around them. Their stories, their characters, the themes, all of these carries traces of their communities, a way of life, their society. Because of this, literature becomes we can say a window through which reader can understand different cultures across time, across place. So when we see we can see the impact of Renaissance in writing of Shakespeare's, Marlowe, and in Marlowe also, and romantic writers like we have Wordsworth, John Keats. They talks about nature. They lived in among the natures. And we have Alexander Pope. They wrote the political satires. So every era, we can see the different kind of character, different kind of stories, different themes. So when we read a novel, poems, when we read a play, we learn not only about the characters, we also about the society they lived in. So this is literature. Literature shows how people speak, what they believed in, and how they celebrate festivals, how they treat others, and the problem they faced. Let's say, for instance, folktales often preserve traditional beliefs and moral values passed down from ancestors, and modern novel may show changing attitudes towards gender, caste, relations. We have changed a lot in political issues. So in this way, literature records cultural continuity as well as a cultural change. Literature also reflects the social struggles and tension of a culture, right? So a writer, often use the work to comment on injustice, inequality, or conflict within society. Through storytelling, it reveals, how cultural system affects people's life. We have Amol Rasanand's, his novel Untouchable exposes the cruelty of caste-based discriminations in Indian society, Indian Hindu society. Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart portrays Igbo traditions and culture, disruptions caused by the colonial rule. So these works, it helps the reader understand how culture shapes identities, relationships, and power structure. Right. So literature keeps, cultural memory alive. It keeps alive the memories. So it preserves language, definitely, traditions, myths, historical experiences for future generations. So by reading literature, we gain insight into how people lived, what they value, and how they understood the world during different periods. So literature is not only an artistic expression, but also a cultural document. Cultural document. It reflects society's strength, weaknesses, fear, hopes, and allowing us to see, culture from the insides. Can you please change the slide? Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is the image. I hope everyone is familiar with this. The image at the left side is the Mulkras Anand, a very prominent Indian English writer. He was born in 1905 and died in 2004, right? And he was born in Peshawar, and which is now in Pakistan. And he wrote about the life of the poor, oppressed, and those people ignored by the mainstream society. His novel often highlights social issues such as like caste discrimination, poverty, and colonial injustice. So in the image at the right side is his first and the most popular novel, Untouchable, which was published in the year 1935, if I'm not wrong. Okay, can you please change the slide? Next slide, please. Here, I believe I know most of us are already familiar with the story about the Mulras and Untouchables, but I will narrate a short summary of the novel. The story is of the novel is about Baka, a sweeper boy, who is a sweeper boy, and the events that happened in just one day of his life. And Baka is, 18 years old, and he belongs to the untouchable caste, right? And he lived with his father, that is given here. His father's name is Lakha, his brother, Rakha, younger brother, and his sister, Sohini, in a small and dirty area outside the town of Bulasa. And his job is to clean latrines and streets, and society treats him as polluted, untouchable, outcast. So in the story, we see early in the morning, Baka goes to work. Even though he works very hard, people will, scold him, treat him like inhuman. And his sister Sohini goes to village well to collect water. But, being an untouchable, they're not allowed to touch the well. They must have to wait for someone from the upper caste to pour water for them. And then there's another character, Pandit Kalinath, a priest, a Brahmin, gives Sohini water and tells her to come to the temple to help him. So later, while sweeping the bazaar as the story progresses, Baka accidentally touches an upper caste man. The man becomes very angry, very furious. How can an untouchable, touch me? And he shouts at him, that for polluting him. Baka feels very upset, but he cannot say anything because of his low caste. He's an outcast. When Baka goes to the temple later, he finds out the same priest who acted kindly to her, to his sister at the well. The priest tried to molest Sohini's sister. When she resisted, he blamed her instead. And Baka wants to protect his sister as a brother. He wants to protect his sister, but he cannot because he's a sweeper. And he has, no power. He has no. As the day continues, Baka, becomes, extremely tired and angry, and women give him a leftover food. He usually collects food from house to house. A woman gave him leftover food, but she humiliates him by throwing it on the ground. His father always tells him to accept such treatment quietly, since they belong to the lower section of the society. And he feeling hurt and hopeless, Baka tries to distract himself. He visits a wedding, play hockey with his friends, and even get a new hockey stick from someone. But during the game, he is blamed again for an accident he did not cause. So later in the evening, there is a Christian missionary is there who speaks to Baka about the equality and tries to convert him to Christianity, that you should join Christianity. Christianity will treat everyone equally. There's no difference between untouchable and higher caste. There's no caste. But Baka loses interest while the missionary treats him badly. And finally, Baka's in the end, here is Mahatma Gandhi's speaking against untouchability. And Gandhi's word give him a little hope. And in the end of this story, after the speech, Baka overhear two educated men discussing different solutions about Gandhi's call for moral reform, and then Christianity, ideas of equality, and a new flush system that could remove the need for manual sweeping. The flush will come, then they don't have to go. So with these ideas in mind, Baka returns home with new hope, and dreaming for a better futures for the untouchable people. See, this is a brief summary of The Untouchable by Mulrasanan. Ma'am, can you please change the slide? Okay. Caste and culture in Mulrasanan Untouchables. Now, let us look at how the novel Untouchables shows the culture and social life of India before the independence. and the novel is about the caste system that exists in Hindu society, right? So reflections of the caste system in daily life. So the novel shows that caste discrimination is not just a social rules. It is a part of everyday life, and his daily experiences shows how deeply caste is rooted in Indian culture, right? And there is in the market scene here, in the market scene, in one of the scene, when Baka goes to buy jalebis and cigarettes, and he cannot hand money directly to the shopkeeper, just like any other person. He must place the coins on the ground or any place as a separate place, so the shopkeeper can purify them with water. And the shopkeeper even throws the sweet at him instead of giving by hand, right? Usually, normally. So this shows, how society, treats him as a dirty or a dirt and less than any other human being. So Baka keep quiet, even when he knows that he's being cheated. The jalebis, the shopkeeper gave him was very less. He kept quiet. So years of caste discrimination, have taught him to remain silent. So this scene clearly shows that, the culture of the time where caste rule shaped even simple daily actions like buying food, buying sweets. And we have touching scene incident, another scene. Another scene made in the market, Baka accidentally touches a man from a higher caste community, higher caste Hindu, in a very busy and crowded markets. And immediately that man begins shouting at him, calling him swine, calling him polluted, calling him vermin, and is slapping him in public. Even though it was an accident, the crowd support the upper caste, and it also shows how society gives complete power to higher caste and not dignity to the lower caste. And then there's another character, a kind Muslim Tongawala, a driver, defends Baka. And these acts of this Tonga driver teach universal. It is created by social rules, not by human nature. So the first time in this incident, Baka realizes that how deeply society hates his community is simply because of his caste. The house doorstep incident, another incident, and when Baka sits on the step of a wealthy house near the door, where he usually collect leftover food for, and the house owner, the woman house owner, becomes very angry, saying that this untouchable man is sleeping, at my door. And she accuses him of defiling her home just by sitting near her door. So she throws bread on the ground for him, like feeding, to like an animal or dogs. Baka feels ashamed to pick up the bread, but he has no choice. Here we can see the behavior attitudes of the people, because of the caste differences. Laka, the another character, the Baka's father, Laka. Laka is also a sweeper. Just like Baka, his father is also a sweeper. But he has completely accepted the caste rule. He constantly tells his children to obey higher caste people even when they are wrong. Laka represents an older generations that has lived under oppression for so long that they have begun to believe that they deserve it. They deserve to be treated in that way. So this shows how culture can mold not only our actions, but our thought process. And Baka, on his son, Laka's son, on the other hand, belonged to a younger generation. And he hoped for a change. Right? He feels angry at the humiliations and want to fight back. Even though he feels helpless. He's helpless. Even though he cannot do anything, he wants to do that. So this contrast between Laka and Baka clearly shows a generation gap and the attitude towards, the caste and operations, the life experiences. And another point is caste discriminations among the lower caste themselves. Yes, Anand also shows in the story that, the discriminations exist even among the outcast. There's one character named Gulabo, a washwoman, and she insults Baka's sister Sohini just because Sohini belonged to a sweeper community, sweeper family, and she belonged to the washerman family. So there's a difference in the caste. So there's a hatred towards one another among the lower sections. So not just that, and she also, doesn't want her son, right, to mingle with his friend who belonged to the other outcast people. So we can see that, the caste divisions are so strong that even the poorest discriminate against each other. Cultural practices reflected in the novel, right? So Baka, we see Baka cleaned latrine. Baka is a sweeper. He cleans latrine because he was born into a sweeper family. His job is not his choice. It is given to him because of his birth. So you can see that how caste decides a person's work in society. And Baka wants to live with dignity. His character is like that, and he wants to dress well. But society doesn't allow him to move on to a better life. And the sad part is that, the Baka is very clean, very hygienic, efficient, very hardworking, and he is capable of doing much better work. But his caste, because he's born into this sweeper family, he forces, the caste forces him to remain a sweeper. And the well scene, so Sohini's, Baka's sister goes to fetch water, but cannot touch the well. She has to wait for the upper caste Hindu so that, they pour water for her. So even the small, daily, basic needs like drinking water, is also, it's also, under the restriction of the caste systems. And no access to education. And Baka wants to study. Baka as a character, he's very hardworking, efficient. He wants to cope, imitate the foreigner, the British officer, and he also wants to study. But school do not allow untouchable children to sit in the class. Teachers refuse to teach them because the parents from the higher caste, people, they won't send their children. They believe outcasts will pollute the classroom. So the parents from higher caste won't send their children. So it destroys the dreams and social progress of the outcast people. And then we have cultural beliefs and religious norms. In Untouchable, we see, Anand also shows, how cultural and religious belief are used to justify discriminations. The temple incident is a strong example. In one of the scene, the temple scene is there, when Baka climbed the temple steps out of curiosity. They're not allowed to enter the temple, but one day out of curiosity, he climbed the steps of the temple. People immediately shout that he has polluted the temple. They blame him, even though he has not touched anyone. At the same time, his sister Sohini is harassed and almost molested by the priest, which is like Pandit Kalinath, right? So instead of being punished, the priest, blamed Sohini, and the crowd believed him only because he's a priest, a higher caste. See, in the Baka is like filled with anger, but cannot do anything. So it is not his physical strength that stops him. It is the weight of religious rules. So caste law make him powerless. And Anand shows, how these beliefs trap Baka and Sohini and cause a deep emotional pain. An incident reflect how religion can be misused in society. It often protects powerful people and punishes the innocents. And Anand uses this moment to expose how cultural and religious ideas become tools for social control. Another aspect is the gender and the cultural norm. Now, gender in the cultural norm, the roles of a mother in Indian culture. So in the story, you see Baka's mother already passed away. Baka remembers his mother very fondly, and his mother shows the traditional role of a mother in Indian society. She is the center of the love and care in family. Baka remembers how she woke him early, made hot tea, cooked food on a small earthen stove, and kept the one-room house so clean. This small act shows the Indian belief that a mother keeps the family strong with her love and sacrifice. She doesn't like Baka's fondness for European clothes. Her simple clothes and her dislike for Baka's European style shows how mothers also protect cultural traditions. So she represents the older generation holding on, clinging on to Indian values, while Baka represents the younger generations influenced by British or European culture. So even after that, her memory remains a very important, integral part of Baka's life. He feels a deep emptiness without her. And this shows that, Indian culture, the mother is seen as the emotional foundations of the family. And when after she's gone, the family becomes weaker, and even a father depends on the children's. So through these memories, Anand beautifully shows that mother is not just a family member. She's a symbol of strength, symbol of warmth, comfort, and love. Early marriages of girl in rural culture. When we talk about early marriages, there's one character named Gulabo, and she decides to marry her daughter with just 14 years old daughter, and to someone else. And this decision, her decisions of marrying her daughter to someone when she's just 14 years old, it reflects very common rural practices. Family believed girl should marry early, especially when they are poverty, poor, and poverty, lack of education and social pressure force parents to make such decisions. Right. So this shows how cultural beliefs and economic hardship takes away girls' childhood dreams and of freedom. So, and usually we get to see these things in rural areas of our country. Transition in society, colonial influence. We can see we have seen the colonial influence on Baka. Baka is fascinated. His fascinations with the British reflect a strong colonial influence shaping Indian society during that time. The British represented modernity, progress, and a break from old traditions. And Baka is drawn to their lifestyle because it symbolizes a new culture, a world that is different, very different from the rigid Indian caste systems. So India was undergoing a major shift, right, from traditional customs to modern influences brought by the British European people. Right? So Baka stands at the center of these transitions. His attraction to English habit shows how colonial rule changed the dreams and behavior of many Indians, right? Especially the younger generations who wanted to believe, to leave behind all social restrictions. And he's, very fond of learning English language also, Baka. And he wished to learn English, that it reflects the mindset of many colonized Indians who believed that English education would give him a new identity. So to him, English is not only a language, but a way to enter into modern world, shaped by the British culture and ideas. And so Baka loved for British, clothes is there. And he loved British clothes and attires, and their style. It also shows how Western style became a symbol of modernity in colonial India, wearing English boots, trousers, using the blanket, the old blanket. He uses the old blanket, English blanket, and which aligned, Baka with this new cultural influence. So you can say that, from all these instances, from these stories, in my scene, instances, we have seen untouchables reflect the cultures of its era, before the independence, by portraying the daily life, social norms, traditions, that shapes and molds people, thoughts, actions, and interactions, in pre-independence India. Right. Can you please change the slide, ma'am? The next slide. Intellectual transformation. So literature is, more than just stories. It is, a mirror that reflects society and a tool that can change the way we think, right? And Mulraj Anand Untouchable is a powerful example of that. The novel shows the harsh reality of the caste system through a Baka character, a young sweeper. Simple things in his daily life, buying sweets, cleaning latrines, or even accidentally touching a high caste man, become a moment of humiliations. Right. So these scenes, in the stories make us feel his fear, Baka's fear, Baka's shame, and Baka helplessness. We feel and helping us, understand the injustice that outcasts face every day in their life. So Anand also shows, the emotional pain of Baka and his sister. Sohini is like, threatened by a priest. And Baka, though angry and, he feel protective, he want to defend his sister, but cannot defend her. Not because he's physically weak, he's very strong. He's very tall, he's very strong, built with muscles, but because the religious and a caste rule paralyzed him. So these moments, make us reflect on how cultural and religious norm can control people and deny them dignity. The important thing is that the novel does not leave us hopeless and points to a solution like Gandhi's work for horizons, Iqbal focus on educations, modernizations of public system using of flush system in toilet, and even opportunities provided by Christian missionaries. So this example, all this example shows that society can change. That is the main thing, can change. That discrimination is not unavoidable. We learn through the end of the story, the novel. So in this way, Untouchable by Mulraj Anand, teaches us empathy, open our eyes to injustice, and inspire us to think critically about culture, relations, and society. It reminds us that literature can awaken minds, and transform understanding and create social change. Right. So can you please change the slide? This will be my final slide. The next slide. NEP 2020 and cultural role of literature. Right. So NEP, National Education Policy, NEP 2020 strongly supports the idea that education should help, a student understand the culture, heritage, value, and languages. This, perfectly fits the topic that the culture, role of literature, right? So the first point that NEP 2020 promotes cultural understanding. When we see NEP 2020, it says that a student must learn about India's rich cultural diversity, traditions, and knowledge systems. And literatures, captures the believed customs and social life of different communities. So in this Mulraj Anand Untouchable also, we see the harsh realities of the caste systems through Baka's daily life experiences. Buying sweet, cleaning latrines, touching, high caste men made by accident. So we understand how caste shape Indian society, especially Indian Hindu society. In a similar way, another writer, Ananthamurthy, Samskara, reflect social hierarchy, right? Hierarchy, the Brahmins and the other outcomes, an impact of tradition on personal life. So reading, such work literature allows students to connect with India's cultural history. Next point, NEP 2020 encourages multilingual learning. Okay, the policy highlight the importance of learning in the mother tongue, right? Our regional language. So reading literatures in regional languages different regional languages will preserve local culture and heritage. Like, for instance, studying Tagore, Bengali's work, or regional stories from Manipuri or Marathi literature, right? It helps students understand local customs, local festivals, and their social practices. So literature becomes a bridge connecting young readers to their roots, right? And next point, NEP 2020 values critical thinking. Literature teaches students to think, questions, and reflect on society, right? So when NEP 2020 wants, education to be inquiry-based and analytical, and by studying literature that reflect cultural issues, right? Caste, gender, colonialism, students become be more aware and more sensitive. So, like I'm referencing again and again this word, not untouchable. Baka and his sister Soini face humiliations, oppressions due to caste and gender. So this makes reader reflect on fairness, equality, and empathy towards them. So likewise, works like Godan by Premchand or Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe shows how social structures and traditions affect people's life, inviting students to analyze it and question them. Question the issue, the root cause. NEP 2020 supports holistic development. The policy says that learning should develop the head, heart, and hands, right? Meaning, now it should nurture, knowledge. It should nurture emotions, and should, develop our practical skills. And literature, contribute to these in a multiple ways. So it expands the hate by increasing knowledge about society, about our history, about culture. It touches the heart by building empathy and helping us understand the experiences and the feelings of others. Same, Bhaka's struggle after reading the novel, we feel for them. We start looking, a sweeper or any other from a new perspective after reading the novel. We connect with them, right? And when we read Tagore poems and stories, his poem inspire emotional understanding and encourage moral thinking. Tagore. So for finally, literature, can also develop, the hands by how? By improving communication skills, critical thinking, right? Learning literature will develop all these skills, communication skills also, critical thinking, and ability to express ideas effectively. This will develop through literature, learning literature. So in this way, reading literature is, aligns perfectly with NEP 2020 holistic approach to education. And NEP 2020 promote cultural preservation, yes, and literature plays a key role in this. Yes. So NEP 2020, focuses on preserving indigenous knowledge. Indigenous knowledge means like tribal culture, local traditions, right? So folk tales, oral narratives, regional stories, it helps safeguard indigenous knowledge. Just as we learn marginalized communities, their culture, their lifestyles through the reading untouchables, so we learn, we learn many things when we start reading oral narratives, when we study folk tales and regional stories. So NEP encourages these cultural preservations while also developing global awareness. Yes, as students can compare their own cultures with others, which align with the next point. NEP 2020 aims at global awareness plus cultural rootedness. Okay. So this policy wants students to be globally aware, but rooted in Indian culture. So reading world literatures like, George Orwell, Animal Farm, and many others, Canadian, Africans, Australian writers, we learn so many things about their cultures, about the world globally. At the same time, when we study Indian literature, together with the foreign writers' works, it helps students compare cultures, different cultures of different communities, different countries, right? And understand diversity, similarities, dissimilarities. Every culture has their own good points, plus point, negative points. We learn all those things, learning literature, works of different writers of different country. And at the same time, we also appreciate their own cultural identity. Learning, works from writers from other country is important. In the same way, we also need to learn our own Indian writers, local regional writers, Indian English writers, Hindi writers. Okay, and we need to appreciate our own cultural identity. With that, okay, so I would like to conclude by saying that NEP 2020 believed education should build cultural understanding and critical thinking. Very main point. Cultural understanding and critical thinking. And literature from Anand to Tagore, from Premchand to other regional work, is one of the strongest tools to achieve this. So it reflects cultures, preserve tradition, and make students think, feel, and question society. This will, be possible learning literatures of different regions, different language, literature from different community. So with that, I would like to end my presentation and this session. Thank you so much for your patience and listening. And now I would like to give time to the session moderator. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Hawaipam, for that enriching session. In fact, your talk has opened our minds to the relationship between text and culture, reminding us how literary narratives operates as culture documents which preserves memory, also challenges social norms and shape collective consciousness, etc. So, on behalf of the organizing committee, we express our sincere gratitude for your time, your expertise, and your thoughtful engagement with us session today. So, now the floor is open to questions. So, participants, if you have any questions, you can either ask or you can even leave it in the chat box also. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor. It's an honor for me to be here as presenting as a resource person. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Participants, you can, if you have any questions, you can leave it in the chat box as well. Very.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Sir, you had discussed the entire topic, keeping in frame the one literary text that is Munkraj Anand's work. Of course, it is like a touchstone, right? Which can be referred to, or it can, as you said, it can be mirrored to even this day's life.
Yes.
So when talking about bringing such literary texts into the mainstream curricula, for example, if it is for an arts and science set of students, this untouchable book would be taking a very wide space.
Yes.
When we talk about NEP 2020, where a student can take up multiple exit, multiple entry, and now I can do a diploma, later I can do a bachelor's, when there's going to be a shift in what the student actually wants, how do you think including such regional and indigenous narratives in mainstream curricula can be done? How can we do this because we have to cater a wider set of people who will be from different backgrounds.
Yes,
so it is definitely the authority of the academicians to take it to the classroom or take it to the student. How do you think we as teachers can do justice to NEP 2020 and to the content?
Okay, but I think Untouchables by Munkraj Anand is still relevant today, and it's a mainstream literature. Indian English literature. I think I consider it as a mainstream because we live in a society where we think we still have this caste system everywhere in nook and corner of the country. So I think for me personally, I feel that Untouchable by Mulraj Anand is a very mainstream literature. Even though there are many other things, issues are there in our country, there are so many literatures with different themes and topics we have today in this postmodern world. But I still feel that Untouchable by Mulraj is a very mainstream and is still relevant to study. And that's the reason why we have Untouchable in every universities, even today, in our graduation course and the master's course also. I look at it in that way, Miss Ma'am.
Yes, I also said that it is relevant till date only. But I was trying to ask you, how can this be? How, as we academicians, take all this to the classroom? If it is for a BA, MA English major, we can take this to the classroom. Otherwise, how do we take it to a set of engineering students, a person who was doing a diploma course? How do we take literature into classrooms? Because only then I think we will justify what NEP 2020 says. How are we going to fit in literature?
I think
Can you suggest?
in engineering also, I think they study more about the business communication and other stuff also. But I think what is the most core concept of literature is we're studying literature in any field, any stream is the literature is about human value, human emotions. So I think it will fit into the engineering college also. It fit into the medical colleges also if we can put this in different streams because human emotions, human value, to be human, to feel for others, other people in society is very important. That is the core value of literature. So I think it is important to have a text like Untouchable, whether it's engineering college also, whether in medical colleges also. We can have different other texts also, other different texts, other literary texts, but a text like Untouchable can be, be a part of the syllabus curriculum of different engineering streams also. That is how I look at it, ma'am. I hope I have answered your questions.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
People, anyone, any questions? Okay. I just wanted to make this note in the beginning of the session. We are extremely sorry because in the program schedule which we had sent to you, we had mentioned the word Dr. Anjan Baira would be taking up this session, this morning session, but due to some reasons, he was not able to join us, and so we had Sir now with this presentation. So now Yansubaini ma'am has posted the feedback link for you in the chat box. We request you to complete that. And thank you all very much for joining us even on a Saturday evening, that is day for yesterday. And yesterday too, we had I received a few messages related to the sessions. But as per the program schedule Sunday, we did not have a session. So yesterday evening, again at 6, we have our session happening. We request you all to join us for the 6 o'clock session. Once this feedback form is done, we'll meet again at around 5:45 for another session related to NEP 2020, Viksit Bharat, Literature and Language, the connect which it brings. Thank you all very much for staying with us.
Thank you, ma'am.
For 5 sessions together. And thank you, sir. And we'll be moving on to our 6th session this afternoon. Thank you all for making it happen. Now we leave the meet. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.